Ren climbed hurriedly through the newly formed tunnel, his legs trembling from effort and mana poisoning. The mushrooms in his hair barely emitted a faint glow, but he could still distinguish the disaster scene before him. He thought it was a mess as he examined the scattered remains of the lesser worm. Fragments of grayish flesh and greenish fluids covered the tunnel walls. The characteristic smell of mana in iron-rank beast flesh permeated the air. It was a shame that despite the relatively high mana concentration, the worms were so inefficient, and only iron rank at that depth. Other bronze rank beasts could live there without a problem. Of course, Ren doubted if he could eliminate those so easily. But not everything was bad. His eyes lit up upon detecting some of the bronze crystals he had used as bait, miraculously intact among the remains. He hurried to collect them, each movement calculated, despite his growing dizziness. He was relieved to have recovered some as he stored them. He mused that he would have preferred it if it were a bronze beast, as he needed many parts for cultivation. His fingers stopped on something more solid among the organic remains. They were teeth. Lesser worm teeth, though from an iron beast, had their uses. Ren carefully collected them, his mind already calculating their possible applications. He considered that they were not bronze beast fangs, but they were almost as strong due to digging specialization and would serve for something. A particular glow caught his attention. Among the massive remains, something pulsed weakly with a silvery light. Ren held his breath while carefully pushing aside the shredded tissues. It was the core. It wasn't really a complete core. Unlike the complete core of the bronze mantis, for example, the lesser worms was more primitive, barely transforming, so it couldn't process well. It was more like a storage, closer to a simple mana crystal. But the silver color didn't lie. It contained approximately 100 units of concentrated mana. He evaluated it as a low-quality silver crystal while carefully picking it up. It was imperfect and unstable, but with proper processing, it could be useful. The sound of approaching boots interrupted his thoughts. The guards, attracted by the explosion, wouldn't take long to arrive. Ren quickly stored the core along with the other recovered materials. It was time to put the last part of his plan into practice. He thought it was showtime, while composing his expression of surprise and confusion. His mushrooms, weakened by poisoning, provided the perfect image of an exhausted student who had just lived an unexpected experience. The guard's sound drew closer. Ren mentally reviewed his story one last time, the discovery of an unusually rich vein that attracted the crazed worm, the unexpected explosion. Everything fit perfectly. His legs trembled. He didn't have to fake the exhaustion. Mana poisoning was reaching concerning levels, but it had been worth it. Between legitimately collected crystals, those recovered from the remains, and the unexpected silver core, the expedition had been more than successful. He reflected while hearing the guards' voices getting closer that explaining the presence of a silver core would be interesting.
I just can't believe it!
Taro shook his head while examining one of the bronze crystals.
All this was inside the worm?
Ren reclined on his bed. The mana poisoning still made his head spin, but his friend's expressions of amazement were worth the discomfort.
38 bronze crystals,
Min meticulously counted, organizing the materials on the table.
59 iron, and these bags of deep sand weigh at least 1 kilo each.
Liu whistled, impressed. Fortune smiles on you, Fungus. Though being near when the worm exploded, I don't know whether to call it good or bad luck.
The guards say they'd never seen anything like it,
Ren shrugged, maintaining his innocent expression.
Apparently, the worm consumed too rich a vein, and its mana overloaded.
He thought about what they would do if they knew he had caused that overload.
And look at this!
Taro held the silver core against the light.
A silver-grade mana crystal. How did a lesser worm have something like this? Master Song explained it in class, Min added. Lesser worms haven't yet developed complete processing cores. At that level, they just use crystal structures to store mana.
Ren smiled while watching his friends examine his haul. This month had been exceptionally productive. 100 bronze crystals, 783 iron, 2.5 kilos of deep sand, 1 silver crystal, and several useful lesser worm parts. He calculated mentally that it must be worth around 2,500 crystals to double in tomorrow's report, and that the school would really double the value. Everything was noted in the guards' records, who had been surprised all month by Ren's effectiveness. They even had a bet to calculate his daily earnings and called him the lucky fungus. This deserves a celebration. Liu pulled some candies from his drawer. The rotting fungus is now the lucky fungus. Taro laughed while accepting a candy. Who would have thought being in the wrong place at the wrong time would turn out so beneficial? He smiled to himself, thinking if only they knew how long it had taken to plan that accident. The door burst open. "Ren," Lin said. Her icy tone made everyone freeze. The young instructor stood in the doorway, her expression dangerously calm. "Would you care to explain why you're not at the training field?" The color drained from Ren's face. Night training. He had completely forgotten. "Master Lin, I'm overloaded with mana." "Oh, so you have energy to celebrate but not to train?" "Actually, I feel quite bad and—" Ren started to say. Lin interrupted him by grabbing his shirt collar and began dragging him toward the door. "Perfect. Physical training is excellent for purging excess mana from the system." "But Master Lin—" "No buts. 30 additional laps for being late." Taro, Min, and Liu watched with amusement and sympathy as their friend was dragged out of the room. "Save me some candy!" Ren managed to shout before the door closed. His friend's laughter followed him down the hallway as Lin dragged him relentlessly toward the training field. Despite the exhaustion and dizziness, Ren couldn't help but smile. He guessed this was the price of success as he resigned himself to a night of brutal exercise. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed with renewed energy as he walked toward the exchange area with his friends. Lin's pill, combined with last night's brutal training session, this morning's workout, and some meditative circulation, had effectively cleansed the excess mana from his system. "I can't believe how well it went today!" Taro practically bounced as they walked, his beetle's markings shimmering with excitement. "I thought I'd struggle again, but the circulation was so much smoother. I could almost feel the patterns." A smile tugged at Ren's lips as he recalled their morning session.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.